Hi everyone, and welcome back to Elements of Art and our unit on space. I'm Caroline, and today I'd like for us to imagine we have a time machine, and we're going back to the 15th century. And consider this. What do you think artists back then would say if we brought along modern 3D movies or VR games to show them? It would most likely be considered magic. To see 3D space like that would be completely unimaginable. But it isn't as though these artists would be unaware of space, just our technological depictions of it. During the time of the Renaissance, artists were doing their own creative experiments to show different types of perspective in their art. In today's lesson, we are going to look closely at works by two specific artists from different times of the past and how they showed space. But first, we'll learn about the individual responsible for the technique of linear perspective. Did you know that much of what we know about perspective was documented during the Renaissance? It was an innovative time of art and ideas, and one of its game-changing innovations was the introduction of linear perspective, thanks to the genius of Filippo Brunelleschi. Now, Brunelleschi wasn't exactly our typical idea of an artist, like a painter or sculptor. He was actually an architect. In the early 15th century, Brunelleschi conducted an experiment to prove his theory of linear perspective. He stood in front of the Baptistery of Florence, a prominent building, and created a detailed painting of the Baptistery. The innovative part was how he presented it. He drilled a small hole in the painting at the vanishing point and stood behind it, using a mirror to reflect the painting, creating an analog virtual reality experience. Observers would look through the hole at the mirror, which reflected the painting, aligning perfectly with the real Baptistery. This convincingly demonstrated lines actually converging at a single vanishing point on the horizon. Mirroring this effect in both reality and in a drawing proved his theory of linear perspective. Brunelleschi's demonstration provided a clear method for artists to create the illusion of three-dimensional space on a flat surface. The artists we will be exploring today both feature the ideas of perspective in their work. The first is from Brunelleschi's era, and the next is a few hundred years after. Born around 1403, Giovanni di Paolo lived during a time when art was blossoming into the Renaissance, but still held on to medieval traditions. Giovanni's use of perspective was unconventional. Instead of adhering strictly to the newly discovered rules of linear perspective introduced by Brunelleschi, he often used a more intuitive approach. Intuitive approach? What do you think that means? Have you ever seen someone who loves to cook and often just tosses things into the pot without following a recipe? So they know how to cook, but they don't follow rigid outlines. Imagine how this same practice would apply to using perspective. Can you see any areas in this painting that do not follow the guidelines of perspective or the techniques used to achieve space? Pause the video and analyze the image. Did you try to follow any of the orthogonals, like the roof lines? If you did, you may have found that they don't all go to a shared vanishing point. Instead, they are actually almost parallel to one another. This is certainly not following the rules of perspective. Di Paolo didn't always follow the strict rules of making sure all the lines meet at a single point on the horizon, or of making objects appear smaller as they go further away. Instead, he trusted his artistic instincts and placed objects and figures in a way that felt right to him and that conveyed the story or emotion he wanted to express. How do the sizes and placements of the figures affect the way you experience the scene? Does it make it feel more magical, more intimate, or maybe more chaotic? Pause the video and reflect in your lesson notes. For me, it feels like people overload, and I'm not sure where to allow my focus to fall. Paolo's intuitive approach allowed him to create scenes that might seem a bit more dreamlike or fantastical, rather than the strictly realistic ones he would have gotten with perfect linear perspective. Giovanni Paolo's Renaissance perspective blended creativity with new techniques. By the 19th century, realist artists like Thomas Cole further refined perspective to capture nature's grandeur. This shift from Renaissance Italy to 19th century America is just one example of how artists continually evolved perspective to match their visions. Many others can be seen throughout art history. Let's explore how Cole used perspective in his work. Thomas Cole was a realist artist. He was born in 1801 and lived during a time when America was experiencing rapid expansion and industrialization. This greatly influenced his work and the themes he explored. Artists of the realism period focused on depicting life with accuracy. Creating with accuracy. How do you think this influenced how Cole used perspective in his art? Think of this. Have you ever witnessed someone meticulously assemble a piece of furniture? They closely follow every step, making sure that each piece has its place and fits together perfectly. The assembler knows that if you skip a step or place a piece incorrectly, the final product might not come together. Imagine this same practice applied to using perspective. Just like furniture assembly requires precise measurements and placements, achieving realism with perspective demands careful attention to the rules. Cole used perspective to achieve realism and depth in his landscapes. He closely followed traditional rules of linear perspective to create expansive views that showcased the vast beauty of nature. Check out this painting by Cole. See if you can find how he follows the guidelines of perspective with this piece. Pause the video and analyze the image. Did you follow the orthogonals, like some of the roof lines? If you did, you may have found that they all converge towards a shared vanishing point, and that point falls smack dab on the horizon line, the line that separates the sky from the ground. This shows a clear adherence to the rules of perspective. Cole ensured that the lines met at a single point on the horizon, but he also used other techniques for showing space. Do you see any in this image? Pause the video and reflect in your lesson notes. One thing he did was to make objects appear smaller as they receded into the distance. You can certainly see this with the painting of the ships. You can also see the use of atmospheric perspective in his works, where things that are far away are lighter and more blue. The realism of space in his landscapes makes the viewer feel as if they could step right into the scene. Maybe you were able to take note of other ways as well. This work definitely shows space. Cole's strict approach to perspective allowed him the ability to create scenes that were so realistic they could be surreal. In one particular painting, The Architect's Dream, he blended various architecture, including an Egyptian pyramid, a Greek temple, Roman arches, and a Gothic cathedral, all within a single landscape. Despite this imaginative blend, Cole's meticulous attention to detail and perspective ensured that each architectural style was depicted accurately, making this impossible scene seem real. So whose artworks are more appealing to you? Paolo's or Cole's? Let's look at two of the works we saw briefly and compare and contrast a bit. Here we have two works, one by Paolo and one by Cole. Let's talk about some similarities first. What are some that you see? Let's check it out. I see a scene that is showing both the outdoors and a house or a structure. I also see that both artworks feature human figures. The color palettes are somewhat similar, with both having tan, blue, and green. But Paolo's piece does break up a bit with some warmer colors. Now let's talk about differences. What differences do you see? I see a difference in the overall feeling of the work. Cole's work is pretty calm and serene, whereas Paolo's seems stressful. Can you see any reasons why this is so? One reason could be the amount of open space in the paintings is much less in one than in the other. Another reason could be what you see depicted in the activities. In one painting, the figures are running around and some are showing distressed expressions, whereas in the other, some figures are at home, while another appears to be leisurely returning from fishing. The difference in feeling can be explained by good reasons like these, but let's talk about it in terms of perspective. Paolo's use of perspective is not mathematically precise. The orthogonals do not consistently converge. This creates a sense of spatial disorientation. This lack of a clear vanishing point can make the space feel energetic and a bit wild. When we look at Cole's use of linear perspective, we see that it is precise and methodical. The orthogonals converge at a clear vanishing point, creating a stable, coherent space. This precision helps the viewer's eye to naturally flow through the scene, creating a feeling of calm. Isn't it interesting how perspective in space can change the emotional tone of an artwork? While Renaissance artist Giovanni di Paolo used perspective creatively to enhance his religious narratives, we see how artists like Thomas Cole employed perspective to convey the vastness of landscapes. Both examples illustrate how perspective has been a fundamental tool for artists since the Renaissance, allowing them to create immersive and compelling scenes with differing depictions of space. I hope you enjoyed investigating the use of space with me today, and if you would like to learn more about anything we discussed today, I encourage you to look through your lesson materials and even do some independent research because art is all around you.
Hey, hey.